Welcome action connoisseurs to yet another Souls-like game, but this time it might be worth a try. I am Poir, and today I will be reviewing Steelrising, a Soulsborne-esque game taking place in the 1700s as an alternate history take on the French Revolution, where a tyrannical king has set an army of automats to destroy Paris. While Steelrising doesn't diverge or do anything better than the true Souls games you're familiar with, it does everything well enough to be an enjoyable experience in a new setting if you just want more Souls content to consume. You play as Aegis, a unique dancer automat with the ability to speak that guards the Queen, Maria Antoinette. You're given the ability to customize Aegis at the very start, so a little bit of character customization, though keep in mind this is the only chance to do so. You also can pick between 4 starting classes, but this is similar to Dark Souls in that it's mainly about the starting stats you want rather than the weapons, as otherwise every weapon here can be gotten later in the game. And there's quite a nice variety of weapons overall you'll pick up throughout your adventure. But once chosen, under the Queen's orders, you are sent out to stop the King and Cagliostro that are essentially brainwashing and killing people to fuel their automats massacre. Along the way, you'll meet various figureheads from the era like Lafayette and George Washington. Just kidding, every guy has a powder wig on, so it's hard to tell them apart.
Oh, y'all look alike! Watch out!
In addition to the main quest, you are also given a variety of side quests involving these members, as well as tons of lore from items and short memory flashbacks called Echoes, Aegis Encounters. So there is a lot of story here if you care to dive deeper, including discovering the story behind Aegis herself. And despite everyone having the awkward face animations and cutscene jank you'd expect from a smaller developer like Spiders, the English voice acting was very well delivered. The voices fit each and every character superbly, though there is a lot of French thrown in between the dialogue, making the game have a all according to Keikaku vibe constantly, which makes the sub-story a bit hard to follow on top of the locale names and names of characters all being French names too. There's a lot of French and English. Speaking of locales though, the game's areas are great, especially Luxembourg, and paints Paris in a war-torn dystopia state wonderfully. And graphically, the game looks quite nice for a $50 game from a smaller studio. Although, I did get a big dip to 30 FPS one time when a boss used an elemental attack. But yeah, overall, it's in the realm of Elden Ring, Sekiro-like graphics. Although, a criticism I have is the lighting. While in lit areas, the lighting is great, but in dark areas, colors and surroundings get muted, and because Aegis doesn't have a light source on her, like a lantern or flashlight, it can be hard to see in some areas. Likewise, for cutscene dialogue in a story-heavy area mid-game, the people talked in a very poorly lit area, making things hard to see and removing you from the moment. But of course, we are here for the gameplay. Like Souls games, you have the typical starter pack of having a light attack, a strong and charge attack, a special attack, and a dodge with iframes. Some weapons' special attacks give them the ability to block, or parry, or even infuse the weapon with alchemy to deal alchemical damage, which can cause devastating status effects on the enemy. In other words, blights, like in Nioh. Perhaps one, if not the only unique thing going with the RPG side of things, is a module system. Essentially little skill boosts Aegis can equip, and the higher you upgrade the slot levels, the stronger modules you can equip. But everything else, like bloodstain retrieval and limited flask and weapon variety, is your typical run-of-the-mill by now. So Steelrising doesn't hide the fact that it is indeed a Souls-like, but unlike a lot of other Souls-like games, this game has a ton of mobility. I would say the game is closer to Bloodborne and Sekiro and even Nioh than Dark Souls. Enemies even have a key system of sorts like Nioh, where the more you attack them, the more you build up this meter, and once broken, they enter a down state, which you can get a critical hit in. The action is a lot faster paced than standard Souls games, and stamina is a lot more important, much to its detriment. Actions consume a lot of stamina, and the base stamina regen is garbage, but they do incorporate a sort of Nioh-like flux system called overheating and cooling. When you run out of stamina, you overheat, but you have a chance to regain back stamina depending how soon you stop the cooling phase bar, via hitting triangle or Y. This lets you get back a large portion of endurance back, but you do take frostbite status as a consequence, disabling you from doing this too often. But Nioh's flux system was something that held the game back at the beginning till you got the skills and stats to make it manageable. You could also do it mid-combat without having to drain all your stamina to gain some back. Here, in Steelrising, you don't really have that luxury. I feel it slows the pace down for no reason. Luckily, there is an assist mode in the game that, if you find the game too difficult, you can tweak specific settings rather than a whole difficulty. Naturally, for review purposes, I tested these out, and once I set the stamina regen to 150 or 200, the game felt a lot funner to play. I was able to attack, able to defend, able to parry, and handle multiple enemies so much better when I tried this out. So much so that I actually stuck with this through the whole game. So if you feel the stamina system bogging you down, bump it up. Then the game basically became late game Nioh for me, which probably made me enjoy the game more than some other reviewers' experiences. In addition to the core systems, however, this is where the Sekiro-like aspect comes in, as Aegis has the ability to jump, allowing you to dodge attacks via jumping and reach some areas or items. And as you progress the story, you unlock even more abilities, like a slow-mo mid-air jump used to reach places you couldn't before, as well as a grappling hook to get around the streets of Paris. But as cool as this makes traversing, it does have some problems in that things you would expect to make a jump to are blocked by a hidden wall, and the jump does tend to get you stuck in some poorly coded spots in the map. I've gotten stuck in this spot where I pretty much phased through the wall and couldn't get out, forced to lose my anima via the coin item to get back to a Vestal. Or like here is me trying to get across the river to the other side with a jump, but the hidden wall prevents me, I die in the water, and upon respawn, look, the game spawns my bloodstain in the ocean. How nice, losing me that 40k anima. Cool. So the traversing is a bit of a love-hate relationship. And lastly, moving on to enemies, despite my fun with the combat, if there was something lacking, it was the enemies. The robots are pretty cool the first you encounter them, but enemy variety is garbage. Most of the time when you enter a new area, you fight the same enemies previously, or they might have fire or ice element now. And in the final areas, the game just throws a bunch of enemies at you rather than new ones. You'd have a big Hulk robot, now followed by 2 to 3 dogs or 1 or 2 spiders, always, over and over again, every area. And their movesets weren't particularly hard, they just became difficult through numbers. Then there's the bosses, where half the game is normal enemies as bosses, just slightly more annoying to fight due to an obnoxious big blue mist on them, making it hard to read their attacks. The only standout fights were the Titan fights, the real story bosses. Some of them were pretty cool mechanically, like the Executioner, whose grab attack puts you in its guillotine and chops your head off, or the Treasurer boss fight. These felt like good Souls fights. The rest, aside from the final boss, just felt too basic to remember. Also pretty much beat every boss first try using Franklin Claws or the Fire and Ice swords, so difficulty really comes from the normal mobs. Even worse, grenades are broken in this game. You can buy dozens from a Vestal if you stock up enough souls, or anima, and just fling them at bosses and completely decimate them. These are bad for the game, I feel, as it removes a ton of the challenge if you can just stand from afar and chuck items at the boss till it died. I doubt they'll remove them, but they're just way too plentiful for how strong they are. So yeah, if you want to enjoy the bosses at all, refrain from using these too much. Also, there is no New Game Plus, just FYI, so you'll have to start from scratch every time you want to run through the game again. Loading your last save will just boot you to the credit screen, which is a bit disappointing, basically locking you out of your last save. So, final verdict, I would rate this game anywhere from a 74 to an 83 at its highest, 74 at its lowest moments. I did like it more than Mortal Shell for comparison. While it doesn't try to revolutionize or break away from a Soulsborne formula, it still delivers an exceptional action game experience in a cool new setting that looks and runs well enough. The story and character interactions is also a nice addition compared to the rather lonely worlds of most Souls games. But the main things holding it back are bad enemy variety, not difficult bosses, the poor visuals in dark lit areas, and the camera being wonky in lots of areas, especially with the way Aegis swerves when moving, making those experiences worse to traverse. So, few problems holding the game back, but I think Spiders and Nacon have a good formula here, and if they can build off this quality, I'll be excited for the next game. So if you like this review, make sure to give the video a like, comment down below if you guys plan to get the game and what your thoughts on the game are so far. I plan to stream a strength playthrough on the game over the week, so tune in if you want to see that, and subscribe for more Robot Souls epicness.